Hello and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We're back with another one talking more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And we're here to review Sacrifice. What a show this was. I want to start at the basement of the card before we get talking too much into like what happened at the end of the show and whatnot, because I do tend to say stuff about some of the stuff that happened at the end of the show, but it sort of spoils it for people, and it's sort of one of those things that, once people sort of hear my thoughts sometimes, especially in the early parts of the video, about the last matches of the show, they tend to tune out. So I want to just go from start to finish from now on, or as much as possible. The countdown to Sacrifice. Actually, wait. I think I want to say every single match. Basically, I thought went the way that I think it went would have gone. So yeah, I got this one correct. I picked First Class to win this one, although they did win in underhanded tactics and whatnot. This was still a pretty decent match there as well. First showing for Octagon Jr. I think that he sort of carried a lot of the match because it was his first time here, and they wanted to kind of showcase him as much as what they could. So this team of Laredo and Octagon is called the Aztec Warriors as well, or whatever. So we'll move on to the main show now. Technically speaking, this was kind of started on the pre-show, but the match between Mace Warner and Sami Callihan started on the pre-show. It finished on the main show, and that one went the way that I thought as well. Actually, before that, we had a interview with Ariana Grace ahead of Master Slamovich being challenged by Cora Jade, which was interrupted by Tessa Blanchard. But anyway, yes, Mace Warner and Sami Callihan. I think I missed some of it on the initial stream. I ran into it a little bit late because things happen, and I missed a little bit of it at the start. So I actually, while they were having I think it was some of the or one of the promos for one of the matches, I just went back and actually watched it properly. Oh man, that was a brutal match between these two, and it was a very brutal way to start up the show, but very, very good brawl. Though I just don't know whether this match should have been at the start of the show, because it was a very hardcore match. So I don't know the rest of the bar a couple of matches that were hardcore matches. They didn't really kind of continue with the flow with that, the ladder match and the steel cage match. Those were the only other hardcore matches, I believe, really. So yeah, I don't know. But I do think that there is that idea of sort of cooling down the crowd and from something like this, so you can cool them down with other things. So, but yeah, Mace Warner won this one, which it's kind of cool because, again, we've said this before, you need to build new people. You need to build some of these young guys up so that you can probably no one had ever heard of this guy basically before this, but now you're going to start saying, okay, we need to start putting this guy over so everyone knows his name, and he's sort of the new Sami Callihan, I guess. He's the new hardcore guy or whatever. Then the match that was meant to start the show, which was Tessa Blanchard versus Li Ling Li. So this one also went the way that I went. I will just say the one, I don't know whether, yeah, whatever. I will say which ones stumped me as well, obviously. I won't just say it went my way and lie or whatever. you know. But yeah, no, this one was awesome. This one was really good. And I don't know, like, I kind of feel like it feels like now Tess is almost in that position of, like, you need to think about making her number one contender for Rebellion, probably. Or a big show like that. I just kind of am on the precipice of saying, like, you should make her champion just based on her performances and whatnot thus far. I think that alone would qualify her for being in that, at least in the picture, if not be the champion. I guess the problem therein is that everyone's and their dog is too held up on something from the past and whatnot and that sort of thing with her. And I don't know how you can really solve that. Like, there's no real way to solve that. And we kind of had this, like, I don't know, perspective somewhat of thinking, well, she's just here kind of to get a short run in and then go to WWE potentially. Like, that was the thought because there was some interest from WWE. So then it becomes their problem, not our problem, and they can do whatever the bloody hell they want, and I won't give a rat's Rudy booty tootie. Like, I don't care that, like, again, like, someone says something, about why, like, the Hulk Hogan situation or this or that or whatever it is. I don't care because it's not the company that I care about, really. I only bring these things up when people are trying to say shit about TNA and say, oh, they did this and they did that. Yeah, well, WWE had a guy there that was raping women. And they brought back a racist for the, I don't know, millionth time after he never really apologized and all this other stuff. And then, all this other stuff that they did. And then they brought Vince back after he was found out just because they were trying to sell the company. I was like, yeah, cool, great. But again, it's one of those things of saying, people love to point the finger at something. I don't care to point the finger at them. I only try to, say, hey, well, they did this too. They're not fucking perfect. People like to forget these things, so whatever. Backstage, it was after this awesome match between Blanchard and Lee. I will move on because we've got to move on. Even though this was a very hard-hitting match, whatnot. Was the interview with the half of the men from the 10-man tag team. This time the baby faces. The heels had a promo earlier in the night. I think it was. I actually don't think I actually mentioned it, but they did actually have a promo earlier in the night. This was more of an interview. Next match was Ace Austin and the Rascals against Wesley, Tyson DuPont, and Tyreek Igwe. I had to look up their names because I couldn't remember them, for God's sake. And again, they don't have a tag team name, so that doesn't help me. So yeah, but anyway, whatever. That is what it is. And this one went the way I thought it would go. Very violent, though, sort of match. I expected it to be a bit violent, I guess. But the whole lucha rules thing, I felt like that really added to it, especially being close to the border, and Texas having a strong Mexican sort of wrestling background and whatnot, even though in these trying times or whatever else you want to say. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one as well. This was hard-hitting, non-stop action here in this one. Yeah, so the Rascals and Rascals and Ace Austin won this one. It sort of does interest me, though, somewhat still to think that, there could be something else, but what else? I don't know. Up next was Macklin versus Kazarian. This one was interesting because the way I thought this would go, I was totally wrong. So that sort of surprised me, and it sort of gives me more intrigue into a match between Eric Young and Macklin. I don't know whether I kind of do feel like maybe they're gonna have a match. Like they've sort of foreshadowed that when Rebellion, maybe, don't know. So again, but I don't know. I guess you've got to give something to Kaz to keep him going, and I just kind of feel like you don't want to relive that rivalry between him and Eric Young. So I'm not sure what you're specifically going to do there. You're not going to team him up with somebody, really. So, not too sure. But yeah, Macklin won this one with some help from EY on the outside, grabbing Kazarian's brass knucks that he's used a few times here and there in the matches, and taking them off of him and then hitting him in the back of the head with them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where things go from here. Up next was the 3-on-2 match, and I think this one didn't go the way that I actually predicted it to go. I don't remember, actually. I'm going to look up my own predictions because I don't remember everything. Because I do not remember all the things. Sometimes it is hard to remember everything. Like some things linger in your brain, and some things don't linger in the brain as much. Actually, no, this one went the way I predicted it would go. So we're on par there with that one thus far as well. So yeah, no, the Elegance duo plus the Personal Concierge won this match. It was all right match here, and I kind of had that feeling of like, God, this rivalry needs to move along, or they need to end it. I kind of like felt like if the Elegance duo hadn't won it, they wouldn't be like there to kind of wrestle them again, so that or the team would have to break up or whatever it is, which like wouldn't be too bad, because again you could slot, or you could kind of keep them together as a team or as a unit of some sort, I guess. But yeah, I still think you could break them up as well. Like, I don't know, but still. After the match ended, some NXT people came in at the end. So NXT's Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. I had to look it up, sorry, because I could not remember their names, and I have zero clue who the heck these people are. Random person A and random person B from NXT. That's my knowledge of these people. Plus they're females. That's about it. That's all I know. And they had, clothes on. Like they had some interesting clothes on. Okay, that was about all I got from them coming in. And I don't understand really, like, the logic here in some ways. I feel like you should have just, like, if you're gonna debut a like almost NXT babyface team, it's like really tough, like, because the TNA fans are they are fans of wrestling, but they are just going to pull for the TNA people mostly, like, really. So you're kind of doing like, if they're going to be babyface, and I don't know whether they are, but I'm assuming they are, like, at this point, because they acted more like babyfaces in this instance than heels. So the idea here being like they're here to challenge for the knockout titles. The Elegance Duo just literally won them, so they're just not going to lose them. Like, at least it gives them another team or whatever else to face off against. Yay, there's 3 teams in the division. Whoop-de-frickin' do. Like, there's still a huge need for teams if you're going to keep this thing going. And if you're not, which is my suggestion, again, let's focus on the Knockouts title, because Marsha doesn't, even with having, Tessa there, and it's like, yeah, she's there, definitely. And she's closing in some ways. It's like, yeah, but still she doesn't have enough opponents. She needs more opponents. So, but yeah, it is good for that division, and I do hope for the best, but, like, in some ways, I just want them to give up. All right, next was Mike Santana versus Mustafa Ali. I want to say, before I get too far into talking about this match, there was, for Mustafa Ali often has his sort of, not overbooked, but elaborate sort of entrance where he has all of his security on tell and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. Plus, he had the Good Hands and Tasha Steelz by his side. So he has had a lot of entourage. So Santana decided to have a special entrance. Now, usually he comes through the crowd, somewhat of a special entrance. This time he came out with a lowrider. So that was kind of cool, kind of an homage to Eddie Guerrero. He's often shown little things to respect and showcase off to Eddie and whatnot. So yeah, this was like I've said before, this was a very personal matchup. And this was I think this was probably the match I was one of the most engaged in, because I did feel like this one I could see it going another way, but I did feel like Mustafa Ali would win it, and he did. And I don't know what they're going to do next, because they are going to have a match next week, I believe. So that seems awfully quick to have another match. Really. So I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do there. But yes, Mr. Ali was able to roll Santana up in the ropes and grab a hold of the ropes after some distractions in this one. But it was an awesome match. It was very violent. This next match was pretty violent and hard-hitting as well. Marsha Slamovich versus Cora Jade. But yeah, just before I talk about it, after the match, Ali continued to play mind games and placed a beer in the ring. So anyway, Cora Jade looking to make history. I think I can't remember what Cora's name was in TNA now, but I think a lot of fans from TNA do kind of remember her being in TNA. So, and they know, hey, she's trying to elevate herself, and that's not us to sit here and say that, in this loss or whatever else, they've lost steam or lost momentum. No, if anything, this has given them, steam and momentum. I thought that Marsha was going to win this one, and she did, because I felt like they're, even though they've been building this up for a while, a month or two or whatever it's been, I don't know now, it's still, not a huge build to any match between any of the NXT people and any of the TNA people. So I do feel like any, build is just well, sure, cool. That's what you would expect in general from, just regular matches. But for an actual match that's actually going to have something happen, or something significant happen, like a title change, I think it would have to be a longer period of build up. And that's where I do kind of feel like I'm on the fence with, we talked about AJ Styles and a few other people coming back to TNA and whatnot, but mostly AJ. I think AJ said he would be up to do a one-off. And it's like, that's cool and all, but realistically, if we wanted to do something with you, or they wanted to do something with him, they would have to do a longer than, or more than just a one-off, realistically. Like, at least you'd have to announce that he would be, competing. Or he'd have to appear and say that he's competing at Slammiversary, or at Bound for Glory, or at whatever place at whatever time, with months of, or at least a month or so of notice. Not just, oh yeah, tomorrow, by the way, I'm going to turn up. If that was the thing, then cool, great, in a way. But, like, I almost feel like it should be a surprise as well. I keep saying that as well, like, about that situation. But I don't want to go too deep into it. But again, just, like, saying, like, I want to continue thinking about this relationship and where it can go and what it can do as well. I want to look for the positives, and I said that before. It is feeling like, yes, WWE has sort of finally came to play. I did sort of talk about that recently. And it does feel like they're actually putting some effort into these sorts of things, such as Cora, because again, they wanted to build Cora up and say, okay, she's going to, potentially be, something big, at least on the NXT roster soon. If not, the main roster at some point soon. So, but yeah, absolutely, like, amazing match between these two as well. At some point, though, I noticed that there was some blood in the ring or something, and I don't know where the heck it came from. I don't know who was bleeding or how someone got cut open or whatever it was, or, what was going on there. I don't know, like, what all, what, like, but, yeah, it was like, oh, okay, what the heck's going on here type thing, so I would like to find out in some ways. So, but yeah, this one I'd like to see. Oh, I'd like to hear of Cora Jade's future successes. Next was the ladder match: Moose and Jeff Hardy, and this one went the way that I thought it would. I will say something about one of the... I think it's the last match, actually, which is the next match, I believe. Yeah. Even though I will talk about that in just a sec. Something didn't go quite as well as quite the way I thought it would in some regards. But anyway, great stuff here. Big risks. Lots of plunder, so to speak, as well. Much like Callahan and Warner, lots of plunder. So I liked the ideas of that they were using at some point, where they had the ladder and the ladder on the ladder, and Jeff Twister faded Moose off the ladder. I think it was a bit unstable just due to the fact that they used the ladder earlier and it sort of cracked some of the rungs of the ladder. So it wasn't as stable as what it should have been or what it could have been or whatever. But they did pull that spot off. One of the more dangerous things was, like, Moose clearing the ring out of the ladders at one point. He nearly hit a cameraman or two or something, I think it was. He actually knocked the camera off one of the cameraman's shoulders at one point. But yeah, this was absolutely crazy. A big swanton through the table on the outside from Jeff Hardy at one point. Big old powerbomb from Moose, which jarred the ladder and damaged the rung of the ladder. Alicia Edwards came in just before Jeff was able to secure the title, when Moose was down from being swanton through the table. Actually, that swanton looked a little like Jeff actually hit himself on the chair that was just underneath the table. But yeah, I think he was just okay from it. And Moose capitalized and speared Jeff through a table in the corner, which led to Moose being able to climb the ladder and retain. So amazing stuff here. Like, I'm just lettering off some of the sort of spots and stuff that are like were big spots and I really remember, sort of thing, and that were like really impactful. Backstage, the director of Authority, Mike Santana Marella, ran into Mike Santana and he asked for a match against Ali this Thursday on Impact. So, yep, with the great hands and Tasha Steele bounds for ringside. And plus Chavo Guerrero waved his TNA return. That's not sus at all. But anyway, First Class had a quick penthouse, which is basically their talk show. I don't think we've really talked about it, so for people who don't know much about it, it's basically just them getting some heat. And they debuted their First Class records, but then they were silenced by the Aztec Warriors, who came out for a fight, which is a bit weird, I guess, in some ways. But then again, I guess they're going to have another match at some point. All right, main event time. The 10-man tag team match. Steel cage. Awesome stuff here. Starting out with Eddie Edwards and starting out with Elijah. Elijah also made a special entrance on a horse, riding into the Impact Zone, and said, "Do you want to ride with Elijah?" So, of course, that's pretty funny. And obviously, the system had the man advantage. The first person out was Brian Myers. And then the next person out was Nick Nemeth, which will play into something a little bit later on. Orlando Colon entered next, and then Leon Slater, followed by Eddie Colon, and then a TNA World Tag Team Champion Matt Hardy, JDC, and then the final entrant was the World Champion Joe Hendry. But Myers prevented Joe from entering the cage initially until Hendry fought his way into the cage. And then the match was underway. Hendry was able to connect with a few fall-away slams, especially a very big fall-away slam on Eddie Edwards from the top of the turnbuckles. He was slowed down by Myers from a low blow. Ryan Nemeth made his way to ringside some point after this to cheer on his brother. Slater sawed off the cage with a Swanton 450, nearly getting the pin and the win after taking out all of the opponents. But after that, everyone took turns dishing out punishment on JDC, which culminated with a steel chair shot assisted twist of fate from Matt Hardy to score the victory. So this one went the way that I predicted as well. The thing that I did not predict, I guess, besides like some of the crazy spots that they did, like Slater's 450 off the top, was at the end of the match, Nick Nemeth attacked Matt Hardy. So, Ryan Nemeth was locking the cage, and then he attacked Matt Hardy, and they kept everyone outside of the cage with steel chairs and whatnot to, attack and assault Matt. So, kind of feel like, obviously it's a heel turn, but I kind of feel like he does have that number one contendership automatic rematch for the world title, but it kind of feels like they're already latching him to a tag team feud in some ways, because he attacked Matt Hardy. He didn't attack Joe Hendry. He didn't attack Elijah. He didn't attack Leon Slater. He he attacked Matt Hardy. So they're automatically making it feel like, well, we're going to put you in the tag team realm and you and Ryan are going to team up to face the Hardys. And that's a big match still. But still, maybe they won't do it immediately, but I don't know. But still, it feels like that is where things are going there. And we kind of were talking a lot about potential before of Nick Nemeth heel turn. I kind of feel like this is I don't know. I kind of feel like this is mistimed in some ways. But then again, that is just my perspective. Or perhaps my perspective of, the situation in which it is in. Because if he had have attacked, let's say, Hendry, because there's that match, or potential match still coming up, you could see that there is a reason, or, more of a reason for him to be going towards that title. So, or to be winning that title, or to do something there. When you're going to do this, it feels like, well, the plan now is to do tag team stuff. You wouldn't necessarily say, well, you're going to now break out as a single star so much. Maybe he will, but, why are you attacking a tag team person? You should be attacking a singles person. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see where things do go. But in some ways, it is a little bit of again, as I said, the main event does need more people in it. So I do feel like, sort of tying somebody to being a tag team or in a tag team situation is worse. But again, it is well, we do need more tag teams as well. So, and we can't just get everything. And I feel like they have more plans for Elijah and Joe Hendry in a feud at some point down the road. And I don't know whether Elijah's going to turn heel, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like dividing people based on that sort of thing is not a good plan a lot of the time. But again, I kind of feel like if you keep Elijah around for a long period of time, or even a short period of time, like 6 months or whatever it is, he can still have some big time matches at big time pay-per-views. This was just one of, I think, his first real big time pay-per-view in TNA. So, you can certainly keep building along and chugging along and doing some stuff there. And it's I don't think it would be bad if he was the champion at some point, or challenged for the championship at some point. Again, I think that's the perfect thing to do with him as well. We talk about TNA giving a lot of chances and hitting a lot of home runs with people that have come from WWE and didn't really get, their just desserts, or even people from AEW who didn't get their just desserts 100%. The Hardys were in AEW a couple of years ago, or whatever it was, and they weren't really doing a whole lot of anything because, maybe Jeff had an issue here or had an issue there or whatever it was, and things like that. But then they were just we don't trust you. Even though they behaved and were good, and even though they got good reactions and whatnot, they never really got anywhere or did anything. They just, were there and existed. At least you could have turned what was happening into a story or into a, something for them to work with and that sort of thing to help put other people over or whatever, or more of one, but yeah, whatever. And Mike Santana, same thing. He was over there in AEW and he wasn't really doing a whole lot and whatnot. And then he's come back to TNA and he's done a heck of a lot, recently he's just lost or whatever. But that's for an ongoing program. It's not over yet, and one loss doesn't, doom you to death or whatever it is. You've got to overcome these adversities and, that's the way of the baby face or whatever else it is, until the point at which, he does climb that mountain. And the thing is, like, again, that's maybe where I'm thinking with Elijah or with some of these other people turning heel, because it is like, well, sure, like, and the same thing with Nick Nemeth, like, he's like, well, sure, you were good baby face, but I think it was kind of wearing thin a lot, and I think a lot of people, like, wanted to kind of see you do that title run because they were like, and they were happy to see that title run, but now it's also kind of like, well, we want to kind of see the Nick Nemeth of old, the best Nick Nemeth, not just like the good guy who's here to shake people's hands and be, a great wrestler or whatever. We want to see an asshole, friggin' come in here and help put over some of these new young guys, because that's what they need. Like, and that's why, again, I'm sort of question, like, I guess you could say, oh, well, this is like the first feud or whatever else it is, or you could say, well, they're going to win the titles potentially, maybe, I don't know, and then, eventually lose them to someone else or whatever else it is. So, but I don't know. Tough to say, certainly. But everything on, like, and again, like, I'm not against it. I'm just like just trying to think or whatever else, or trying to like look at it and go, now what is the plan here? Why was this the choice or whatever it was? Because this wasn't just, oh, let's let them go out there and they can decide. No, they were like, okay, well, who are we going to get? Like, why are you coming back? What are we going to do with you? How are we going to do this? Why are we going to do this? What's next for you guys? Like, type thing. That was the thing. And I'm kind of surprised that he turned heel. I kind of was thinking that Ryan was going to turn properly on Nick, but like it almost felt like it's not going to happen type thing. I don't know. And maybe we'll see where this goes down the road and whatnot. And it's, I really can't wait to sort of hear specifically why this was and whatnot. It's probably to do with the whole, Matt not letting Ryan on the team or whatever else it was and that sort of thing. And in a way, it's sort of like, well, who's the next target? Maybe Leon or something like that. But that doesn't make 100% sense in some ways, because it is like, well, if you are a sort of tag team, it is like, well, again, stick to being a tag team. Same with like First Class. Like, I keep saying this about them. It feels like so much stop-start because they just don't know whether to keep them as a team or break them apart sort of as singles acts, even though they're still together as a team. And sometimes team members have to wrestle singles matches, but like a lot of the time. But again, like, it's one of those things of saying, well, you've got to really keep singles action and tag team action separate. Like, everything that happens in the tag team division should be, about the tag teams. Like, you shouldn't be sitting there and saying, well, suddenly somebody from the singles division is going to invade a tag team or going to, do this or do that. Unless you've got a breakout star type thing, like, we kind of want to turn this guy, or this gal or whatever, into being a main event player sooner than what we thought. They're a lot better than what we thought, or they're a lot more capable than what we thought, or they're much more adept at like picking this thing up, or where we think we want them to be in these terms. So yeah, we need to invest in this guy. But honestly, we're not going to get any resolution anytime soon of any of this stuff either way. It doesn't, like, it's not going to end here, and it's probably not going to end for a full year. And if, again, like, it starts becoming like, well, again, like, you can't just, think that you're going to sit there and have somebody, main event for a full year or main event for a full 2 years or whatever else it is, unless you're kind of very special, unless you've got a lot of momentum going on and a lot of fan momentum going on, and then you've kind of got to switch it up a lot as well. You can't just keep being a babyface for forever. Like, there's a few people that kind of can keep being a babyface for long periods of time, but a lot of people really can't. They've really got to chop and change, and you've got to see them do different things. That's where I'm at with Nick Nemeth. So it certainly builds things up for the upcoming Unbreakable show, I believe, is the next one. I keep forgetting which one's upcoming next year. Let's see quickly while I'm thinking of it. First, we've got the tapings in St. Joseph, Missouri. Unbreakable, which is, about a month away, which is, kind of weird as well, because, Rebellion's just, literally after that, so it's going to be an interesting time, in some ways. Two pay-per-views that are pretty damn close together. But yeah, we're not going to look too far ahead. We're just going to be, and that's where I find things are best at. It's we've got to focus in on the next big show. St. Joseph's certainly there, but we've got to focus, in on Unbreakable, the next pay-per-view, or the next special, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, guys, I think that's all I've got to say here on this one. This was a really great show, another sellout again. I think Tom said this is the 9th or 10th, something like that, show in a row that sold out. Actually, it's probably at least the 12th, Tom, because literally every show that you've had, well, every special show, every not the tapings, not just the generic tapings, but every other show, every show that's had a premium live special attached to it, or a special live episode, has sold out. So that's been since January 2024. So that's at least 12 months worth, or at least, 12 plus the next 3 months. So 15 months worth of sellouts. At least on the premium live specials shows, and the live special shows. So that's where we're at right now. And it is good momentum. We've got to keep that good momentum up. And that's the thing. I want TNA to be in that conversation for number 2. And I want to talk more about that at another time as well. But yeah, I feel like that's where people need to start going. AEW needs to pick up their game, because TNA is doing really well. They're doing some really good things here. And everything AEW is doing, right now, they get some really good things here, and there's some really bad things there. Again, same thing with TNA. Sometimes you feel like, oh man, here I am criticizing some of the smallest little eggs or whatnot, that sort of thing. Rather than, there was so many things that were bad, or so many things that, felt like, wow, what the heck, no, everybody, from a standpoint of, this is a show, again, if you were to say, oh, this isn't a show or whatever, obviously, anything that any heel would do would be suddenly unprofessional, or whatever else it was, or whatnot, that sort of thing. But even then, the babyfaces do unprofessional things sometimes out of rage or whatever else it is. So, but again, everyone here is professional. Everyone knows, hey, this is a performance, and we've got to give it all we've got, so that people go home happy, and so that they come to the next show, and so, we can build, this product up, and that's where it should be. So we're going to keep the ball rolling, hopefully, and I will definitely be talking to you guys probably soon, next week, about the build to the next show, Unbreakable. So yeah, guys, hope you have enjoyed this one, and I hope you'll join me again in another one.